So what does it mean to be what I call Governor Shapiro an instinctive uniter? What does that mean? First of all, tone. You heard his tone there. It was not frenetic or fiery. He thinks about Trump voters all the time in his state, but nationally, his state's a bellwether state, has rural areas, urban areas. He thinks what's motivating Trump voters? Can he win Trump voters as he did many of in his gubernatorial reelection campaign? He picks principled fights, and when he disagrees with MAGA, he says so, but he doesn't do it in a disrespectful way. And then finally, his theory of the case of politics is not fire up my base and turn them out. His theory of the case of politics, same as Bill Clinton, same as Barack Obama, same as Joe Biden, I got to get everybody. I want everybody possible who might vote for me to consider in a serious way to vote for me. That is his instinct. And I'll say it's not the only reason his stock has gone down, but in the party right now, they're not looking for instinctive uniters. If you look at people who are doing better, it's people who are not taking that path. Okay? So who else would be in that camp? Who else in the Democratic potential field's instinctive uniter? Gretchen Whitmer, governor of Michigan, Governor Beshear of Kentucky. It's a smaller group, the group that's clearly from the uniter camp. But history suggests that's where the party goes. The last batch of Democratic nominees, same with John Kerry, same with Hillary Clinton, they're unsuccessful nominees. They've all been from that group. They've all been from the group's uniters. Does it mean that they don't have liberal positions on some issues? No, it doesn't. They have a lot of liberal positions, but so did Bill Clinton. But they do stake out, at least on occasion, positions that challenge the base of the party. I'm looking for a tough and skilled instinctive uniter to be the dominant player in that lane. Who else likes instinctive uniters? Donors. The donor class, because the donor class always believes that the best bet in the Democratic Party is somebody who can take the center in the general election. Rahm Emanuel historically has been an instinctive uniter, but he faces so much pressure from his past doing that as mayor of Chicago, that you see him in his interview with Megyn Kelly, some other interviews he's done, you've seen him kind of picking his way through. Can he be that uniter? He's from the Bill Clinton school, and we'll see if he can sustain it. Bill Clinton won as an instinctive uniter. So did Barack Obama, because they had so much credibility with the far left of the party. They cut him some slack. Rahm Emanuel won't get that. Okay, the dividers, the instinctive dividers. Front and center is AOC. Governor Pritzker I'd put in that same category of Illinois. But AOC right now, I hear more and more Democrats saying she will run for president and that they think she'll be formidable. I still want to see her answer tough questions. I want to see what her policy positions are. She has a lot of really liberal positions to the left of the country. I'm skeptical of her candidacy, that she'd be successful even winning the nomination. But Gavin Newsom, as you know, is got this ballot initiative in California to try to gerrymander the state to offset some of the losses Democrats are going to face in Texas and elsewhere. And he made an interesting choice. He recruited AOC to do a campaign ad in support of voting yes to gerrymander the state and try to win 5 seats for the Democrats in the U.S. House. Listen to this ad. If you're watching on YouTube, watch this ad and listen to all the hot buttons she hits. This is not a uniting ad. This is a dividing ad to fire up the base of the Democratic Party. Go ahead and roll S2, please.
California, you know we don't back down from a fight. And this November, the fight belongs to you. Donald Trump is redrawing election maps to force through a Congress that only answers to him, not the people. If he gets away with it, all bets are off for our health care, our paychecks, and our freedoms. With Prop 50, we can stop him. Prop 50 levels the playing field and gives power back to the people. Fight for democracy in all 50 states. Yes on 50.
That is left-wing populism. That is anti-Trump. That's about fighting, right? Fighting's the key word. If you hear a Democrat talk about fighting Trump, you know that they're trying to fire up the base. There's nothing in there that's unifying. Now, it's a ballot measure, but the fact that she was chosen, the fact that she's doing this ad for California shows her national ambitions, and that ad shows her skills. She is a great communicator. She is very, like Trump, very watchable. People are drawn to want to hear what she has to say. My test always is if that were on in a room and you walked in and the sound was down, would you want to turn it up to hear what she had to say? That's what people have done now for years for Trump. They do it for her too. All right. Two guys I want to talk about finally, both of whom may well run. I'm not sure either of them's a sure thing, who I think are instinctive uniters, but are being big dividers now. And this shows where the centrifugal force in the Democratic Party. Two guys who, again, their instinct is to unite the country. They've taken moderate policy positions during their careers. Their tone is moderate. They're willing to go on conservative media, a sign of a uniter. But both of them have been sucked into this orientation of you got to show you're confronting Donald Trump. You have to be anti-MAGA, not try to understand MAGA. And again, these are two guys. I'm talking about Pete Buttigieg, former transportation secretary, and Gavin Newsom, governor of California. These are two guys who have been students, as much as anybody else in the party, really, of why MAGA? Why has Donald Trump succeeded? What do they care about? How does the Democratic Party win them back? And yet, in the current moment, I don't see either of them showing their inner unifier. They're both playing that other card. They're both playing the divider card. Here's Pete Buttigieg. This is from Meet the Press also. And he's talking about the Trump administration and how they operate. Is this from Meet the Press? I think I have that wrong. No, this is from a podcast interview with Kara Swisher, not Meet the Press. Pete Buttigieg with Kara Swisher talking about the Trump administration. Roll S5, please.
Part of their project is to assert total control over this country. Not just lead the government, but control everything. This is something that is enabling them to try to do that even more. We've seen that sort of thing before. I mean, history teaches us some provocative incident then leads those in power to have a way to consolidate their power. If there's any cohesion, any pattern in what this president does, it's everything he does is about consolidating his own power.
Will it work?
It could. I mean, if he's actually able to use this as a pretext to undermine groups and people who are politically difficult for him, that are not in any way associated with this or any other act of violence, but are a political problem for him, given that you have a court that's unwilling to check his power and a Congress that is unwilling to check his power, that could happen.
Now, the tone is calm. He's not screaming. He's not using profanity. But that is a critique of Donald Trump that you could hear on Rachel Maddow. You'd hear in the far left of the party, and it's certainly playing to that part of the party. So much has happened in the last couple weeks that would give an opportunity for a Democrat who wanted to show understanding of how people in MAGA feel, why Donald Trump has won the support of so many people who don't like his style, sometimes don't like his issue positions. Things like double standards on censorship, where you have all these Democrats now saying, oh, no one should ever be canceled for what they say. Things like an announcement from YouTube that they were going to restore a bunch of accounts from conservatives that were canceled. Things like the assassination of Charlie Kirk, where the reaction of a lot of Democrats has been to criticize Charlie Kirk, cherry pick quotes, take quotes out of context, and not show the understanding to the tens of millions of people so connected to him and so affected by his murder. These have been opportunities for these Democrats to not pull their punches necessarily in terms of their principled opposition, but to understand what MAGA is going through. And I've not heard that be an emphasis from Pete Buttigieg. Probably the most interesting prism to look at this question of how Democratic leaders who may want to run for president are thinking about where the party is now is Gavin Newsom. He continues to be the most visible of all the Democrats. The press turns to him on almost everything. He continues to play his mocking of Trump game on Twitter. And he was in New York this week, Clinton Global Initiative, some environmental meetings, lots of high-profile appearances. And I'm such a student of his. He's been on the program, and I know throughout his career as mayor of San Francisco, as lieutenant governor, as governor, he has been a critic of the liberal excesses of his party. He has been someone, as I said, who's studied conservatives, took a lot of heat for putting people like Charlie Kirk and Steve Bannon on his podcast. And he did that, as he has said, because he wants to understand. Now he takes heat, and sometimes he soft pedals and says, "Well, I'm not having them on to understand MAGA. I'm having them on so we can all learn from them or figure out what's going on." But he wants to study the other side, and his heart's in the right place, not just to some tactical advantage. He really wants to understand how to grow the Democratic Party the right way by appealing to people on economics, on other issues where he thinks that his party needs to do a better job of reaching out. So because he's been in the East, he's been doing a bunch of media in person, right? And I've said this before about him, one of the reasons I think in the end he's not going to run, and I'm the only one still who thinks that, is it's hard to run for president from California. There's so much of the activity, the key states, the media, the other politicians are in the East, right? In Washington and New York, et cetera, New Hampshire, Georgia. But so when he is in the East, he does a lot of media. He's done this before. He's been to the Clinton Global Initiative in New York City before. Here he is doing Stephen Colbert's show a couple days ago. And again, listen to how he talks about Donald Trump and by implication, how he talks about the MAGA agenda. This is Stephen Colbert with Gavin Newsom. S1, please.
This guy is flooding the zone. He's dominating the narratives. Facts don't seem to matter. And Democrats, frankly, have had a difficult time pushing back. And Democrats feel that, times there's sort of this weakness that dominates our brand and our party. And I think what people appreciate is that we're willing to fight, and not only fight symbolically by having a little bit fun, but fight substantively. We have 41 lawsuits against this son of a bitch. We're pushing back and we're winning. And we're filling a void on a lot of issues. I'm out here for Climate Week. California is the tentpole in terms of climate policy in this country. As he walks away from Paris, he walks away from leadership, moral authority around the rest of the world. California is trying to assert itself on health policy. Same thing. We created this West Coast Collaborative. We're not going to listen to this guy. We're not going to listen to him trying to pronounce acetaminophen, or we're not going to sit there, listen to all that. No one trusts the guy.
So what's the biggest applause line that Newsom gets in that segment, right? Biggest applause line is when he says, we've got, bring it back up here. We have 41 lawsuits against that son of a bitch. Okay. Why has Newsom moved ahead in the polls? Why are people talking so much about him as a potential nominee? Because he's using the powers of the governor of California on social media, as he said, to have some fun, but to be in the daily news cycle, but also to bring lawsuits, instigate policies, sign legislation, right? And almost everything he's doing is anti-Trump and not meant to appeal to MAGA. This is not a uniter saying, vote for me because I'll bring the country together after 4 years of disunity around Donald Trump. It's vote for me because I'm going to take the wood to that son of a bitch, right? That's not all of Gavin Newsom. Certainly he's always been anti-Trump, but he's also, met with Trump and worked with Trump. He said over and over again during COVID. So this is a clear indication that right now, where is the Democratic Party? Where is the centrifugal force? Where's the allure? It's to be in the uniter divider wing. It's to be as most anti-MAGA, anti-Trump as you can be. And the danger for the Democratic Party, and I hear this a lot from Obama people and Clinton people, is that's not what's going to win the general election. That's what's going to drive some support maybe from grassroots activists, maybe raise money online. But if the long game is to win the White House, not just to win the nomination, if that's the long game, then the goal is to not just be someone who divides and revs up the base. You got to do that. You have to rev up the base. But the danger they see, and a lot of Republicans have pointed this out to me this week with glee, is if the contest is to be as far to the left, angry, not thinking about how to win over Trump voters, if that's the contest that defines who can be the Democratic nominee, Republicans are delighted with that. What they want to not see is a contest where somebody says, I love the base of my party, I oppose Donald Trump, but I also want to win over people who are Trump voters. And that requires an economic agenda. It requires talking about health care. It requires talking about long-term understanding of how to afford a house, et cetera. It's hard to do that. Ro Khanna tries to do stuff like that, the congressman from California. Does he get attention for that? No. He gets attention for hounding the president on Jeffrey Epstein. Everybody, want to tell you a story about a guy named Leo Grillo. He was on a road trip and he came across a dog who was severely underweight, clearly in trouble. The Doberman was saved by Leo. He rescued him and he gave him the name Delta. Sadly, though, Delta is just one of many animals that needed help. That gave Leo the inspiration to start a group he calls Delta Rescue. It's the largest no-kill Care for Life animal sanctuary on the planet. Over the years, they've rescued thousands of dogs, cats, and horses from the wilderness, and they always do right by them. They give them shelter, love, safety, and a home. That dedication and everlasting love to animals, that is Leo's mission and his legacy. Delta Rescue relies solely on contributions from people like all of us to do their good work. So if you want caring for these animals to be part of your legacy, speak right now to your estate planner because there are tax savings and estate planning benefits to giving to the organization. You can grow your estate while letting your love for animals live well into the future. Check out the estate planning tab on their website to learn more and to speak with an advisor there. We call dog man's best friend for a good reason. You can help those dogs who need it most. So please, right now, visit deltarescue.org today to learn more. Again, that's deltarescue.org.